Thanks very much. So cross-functional collaboration, orchestrating IT, data science, and business partner engagement. We are competing for the longest title in all of the sessions. So this is Paul and I, obviously. I would be remiss in not taking this opportunity to introduce New York Life. Great company to work for, Fortune 100. We have a broad scope of innovative data science projects. We are hiring. Our data scientists are supported. Oh, we got a hand raiser. They're supported by a fabulous team of ML ops, program managers, change management, validation, governance, everything you need to go from research to deployment. So hit us up on LinkedIn. Reach out at the conference. We have a lot of New York Life people here. The other thing about our organization, we have some fantastic data, a great platform, including Domino. And on the left side, you'll see some things that people are talking about as far as our company goes. So Fortune magazine, Working Mother magazine, Forbes, America's Best Employers. So, you know, a lot of opportunity there. All right. So the Center for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence, CDSAI, I know, it drives everybody crazy, including us, you know, but that's what we call it. What are we made up of? We'll talk a little bit today about what we've done in the last 5.5 years in our organization. And when the introduction was made that I've been there since the founding is relatively recent. We were established in 2016. We went from 5 to 55 people in the last 5.5 years. So our organization is set up in this way. This is an all-encompassing organization. We've got data science business verticals. That means that we interact directly with our individual business partners, underwriting, marketing, service, and you know, several others. So we're basically a shared service. Inside of our organization, we have our ML ops team. They deliver ML engineering. Most of them are here today, which is exciting to see. Manage our platform. Our governance team does validation and monitoring. We've got our monitoring lead here today if anybody has any questions for Dan. We've recently introduced product management to the team, which has been really important. Our program and change management runs across the team, and we've got a fantastic data science community education and training program at New York Life. So we also are basically the leaders for the organization in analytics. So within New York Life, there are several smaller analytics teams, but we really are the Center for Data Science and the Center for Excellence. So this is our trajectory, our maturity curve. So this isn't everything we did, but these are kind of the key things that happened over the last 5.5 years. We spent the first couple years staffing up, looking at our data, understanding our data, learning about it with our business partners. And we started building some insights models by 2019, particularly for the actuarial teams. And that's great, but what's the problem with insights models? Anybody know? Come on. Yeah. Say again?
You have to convince people that you actually have something.
You have to convince people. Who owns an insights model? Data scientists who built it, right? We didn't deploy these models. Basically, one-time output delivered to the business partner, super interesting, not productionized. What if that business partner wants it again? Oh boy, data scientist still owns it. Can't move on to the next project. So in 2020, we really thought about a deployment platform, and that's when we brought in Domino. 2021 was all about, oh gosh, put this stuff into production. We better watch it, we better monitor it, we better make sure it's doing what we said it would do, and we should really partner with people to make sure that's happening. And in 2022, we're realizing, okay, how do we scale this operation? How do we make this create the velocity we need to put models into production on a regular basis, research, idea to deployment. So, you know, the great thing is in the last 24 months, between mid-2020 and mid-2022, we put 20 models into production. Now, I know for Google, that's not a big deal, but for New York Life, it's a really big deal to put 20 models into production, even though some of them were point releases, okay? Still a big deal for us, and that was a great learning experience. We also did that during COVID from our bedrooms, right, from our basements. So kudos to that ML Ops team because that's pretty cool. And as I said, we learned a ton. We were very theoretical in the beginning. We said, well, we think this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then we actually did it. And we were like, oh, it doesn't really go like that. It was turned around sometimes, or a lot more iterations than we thought. But these were really the 3 key things that we came out of these last 24 months understanding. Number 1, your process is ever evolving, at least ours is. Every day something new comes up and we say, oh, we should make note of that and make arrangements for that. Number 2, the bigger you get, the clearer the roles have to be. It's great when you're 15 people and you're shouting across the room, hey, do this, do that, and everybody kind of does everything. I was a program manager as well as, the ops lead in the beginning, and everybody can tell you that story. Everybody had 5 or 6 roles. So clear roles, and then the need for cross-functional collaboration. We really didn't get that until we started to put things into production, right? We really didn't understand the number of touch points that we had. I just want to check something. Okay, so the first thing we did was, we talked about the process, this ever-evolving process that we mentioned. This is what we started with. This is where we are today, to tell you the truth. We get ideation and proof of value first. That's kind of with the data scientist and the business partner. Does it make sense? Okay, we'll go to analytical build. Is it deployable? Okay, great. Then we'll get a plan in place with everybody who's needed. Our ML Ops team will optimize the code, make sure it's ready, make sure the requirements are clear, hand it off to technology. Technology puts it into production. And it goes to model monitoring and product management. And, so it's a funnel, right? And it truly is a funnel. A lot goes in the top and not a lot comes out the bottom. We're probably 15, 20% right now. So what I mean by that is about 15 to 20% of the things that we put in the top come out the bottom. And I actually think that's a great thing, right? Because if you don't encourage creativity, and you don't make sure that everybody has the flexibility to put whatever they want, whatever solution and business problem and solution they want at the top of that funnel, then the really cool golden nuggets are never going to come out the bottom. So we have a very flexible view in terms of ideation. But we also wanted to study a little bit about, well, why does it not make it through the funnel? And there's several reasons. Sometimes business sponsor is missing. Sometimes we have a great idea, but we can't really convince the business. And remember, 5.5 years old, so we show up in some of these departments. There is not a red carpet for us. It's a little scary. They're not quite sure sometimes what we're offering up. And, they're not always open. So sometimes your sponsor is not quite there, right? That's okay. Sometimes there's not enough data. Sometimes an AI ML solution sounds really cool, but it's not necessary, right? It's overkill. So you really have to look at things. Does the partner really commit to implementation? Maybe not. Maybe you get all the way to analytical build, you have this really cool predictive model, and it's too much trouble. Architecture. Don't forget your tech partners. Architecturally, can we put that model output on the end user's desktop? You need to ask that early. If it's no, or if there's not enough money to do that, then it's not that you won't do it someday. It's not that your hard work is lost. It's that you have to kind of park the idea for a little bit before you go to your tech team and start talking to them and dragging a lot of people through a process that isn't doable. And then this last one is a little bit of a sticking point for us. You're new, you get a model, you think it's great, business partner thinks it's great, put it into production. And then you go and you're in monitoring and you meet up with the partner and you say, hey, how's it going? You guys loving this thing? You using it? And they say, oh, well, yeah, we love it. We still do our old way, but we check things with the model output. Like, what? What? You what? So, you really, that'll happen. And you can't get bummed out about it. I think you have to say, par for the course. It's not lost. And you still have some opportunities to kind of grow that, right, with the business partner. So let's see. So what happens? Okay, we talked about our process, and then we said, okay, well, we have to dig a little bit deeper. Why do some of these challenges occur? And we said, well, who owns what in this process, right? And we broke up our process and we said, there's some certain leads in certain areas. We have people who should be leading in that phase of the process. Are they leading? Are they really, really involved? And, in the proof of value, I mentioned you really need partner buy-in. You need that business partner to be engaged. And we started to notice that some of our business partners were more like spectators, right? They were like, yeah, that's interesting. Let's do it. And then we'd come to them, we show them something, and they'd cheer, good job, good job. And we'd say, okay, well, there's more to this than just, the predictive power of this model. It's what are we going to do with this model? How are we going to put it into production? What do you want to do with it? And really, what we learned was that the business partner didn't understand when we first started working with them that there is a full life cycle. And that, without their engagement, we're never going to get all the way through this full life cycle. And we had to kind of talk a little bit about and create content about the total cost of ownership, right? What is the total cost of ownership of this engagement, this fun AI, ML engagement? And, and I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about real engagement, commitment to changing the way you do business, commitment to changing the way your end users might use this model output to change the operation. So, of course, that costs money, but the vision to see that, is really important. And then, at the end of the day, who owns the model? Who owns the model that we build? Anyone? Right. They didn't realize that. They would say, your model, your model, your model. And so it took us a little while to kind of convey that we're a fantastic service provider. We're here for you. We're going to keep an eye on this thing. We're committed, but it's your model, and it's your business process. We also found in analyzing the roles experience that we had some challenges internally. In our nice little box that I showed you with our ML ops and our data science team, we had some challenges in terms of like roles between ML ops and data science and how they operated together, how they collaborated. And Paul's going to take you through that a little bit. And then lastly, I love this picture because it looks so simple. Technology in a little box. It's just a box. It's got everything in it, right? And you start to look a little deeper at what it takes to do this stuff, and it got a little bit scarier for us. So we talked about the process, the ever evolving process, the roles, right? But really, the next thing is these cross-functional teams, and it was eye-opening. We start in a very insular way, data scientist to the business partner, and we go over and we say, oh, can we have a little bit of enterprise data? And our MLOps team knows where to get that and bring it in. And then the business partner says, oh, you know what, we better talk to our business tech team. They've got some data, and they've also got, they're going to tell us about how we'll architecturally be able to plan for this. What is the integration plan? We certainly don't want to deliver a model that doesn't land on someone's desktop in a tool that they're already using. Nobody wants to send somebody to model output over there. They won't use it. And then enterprise tech has to get involved because we've got to deploy our model. We've got to test everything that we do. And then, oh gosh, 50 end users, change management, application support after we go to production. 8 teams for this model. I mean, we were just like, oh, this was eye-opening. 8 teams, 4 of which are tech. We did a little look-see inside of our process. We said, oh gosh, these models, we have about 14 touch points from the time we start a model. And that's where you're looking for data, getting some help from an enterprise data team or from a business tech data team. 14 touch points until the day we're out into production. That's what we counted. We were like, oh my God, we have 10 models in flight, 14 touch points. We have 140 touch points across the tech organization. We were like, oh my gosh, this is way more complicated than we thought, right? So, oh, that's what I wanted to say. I had a little note there because I wanted to remember to say something super positive, because it's true, it is positive. Once we figured all this out, and once we were able to communicate this to the tech team, they were as aha'd as we were, right? They were like, we had no idea that you had to go to all of these places and do all this stuff. So we're in the middle of creating a center for enablement for AI and ML within our tech organization so that someone can escort us through this process in the future, right? And I think that's going to be really great is, you know, we're not going to change the way New York Life does business. We can't, right? I mean, our tech teams are set up for a reason, the way they're set up, but what we need is you know, the ability to kind of pull us through that process as we start to build these models. And so, you know, it's a long and winding road. We all know that. I would guess that most of us are at some different points in this road. I went to a meeting yesterday with the CAB, and I was so impressed with the progress that some people have made in this MLOps journey. We're probably 25, 30% down the road. But I think it's, you know, it's key that, you know, you learn from your experiences. And I will say that everyone on our team in the ops area, and most of whom are in this room today, got an honorary MBA through this process. So that's a master's of bruises and abrasions. So in case you're wondering, yeah. Mistakes will be made. We embrace them. I love talking about mistakes. I don't like talking about a second time, but I like the first time because we're not going to make it again if we do that. I know what people say this all the time, business problems are solved with communication. In this case, they really are. It's not a technical problem. It's explaining your technical problem to all of the people who are involved. And you know, definitely we've learned that change your process as you need to. Give it to your team. I don't own this process, our team owns it. I was so excited the other day when our chief analytics officer, Glenn Hoffman, gave me a ring and said, hey, I want you to change something in this process. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's all contribute. So with that, I'll pass this to Paul to talk about MLOps.
Thank you, Deb. So I'm going to talk about some of those bruises that we are well earned. So I started in 2018 in CDSAI. That environment at that time, the data scientists really did everything. They owned the whole process from beginning to end. They did all the development. We ran everything on this single server, even though it was a large server, but it was still, you know, not the right way to do it. You know, we had frequent delays, failures, very difficult to manage. No system integrations. Like if we had to integrate with some of our admin systems, tech wouldn't even talk to us. They'd be like, you know, you can't do that. Maintenance is done by data scientists, so I don't want to offend any of the data scientists, but the code itself is sometimes very difficult and needs a lot of work. So them actually fixing their own code is even scarier. And then just resource utilization. Not the best way. You want your data scientists really working on, you know, solving those problems, getting that golden nugget that Deb had mentioned, right? How do we get to that point? But them working on, you know, systems issues or data prep work, not a great idea. And it sort of led to this issue.
Is this a dead man, Doctor? Very dead, Mr. Spock. He's dead, Jim. He's dead, Captain. He's dead, Jim. He's dead. Dead, Jim. The man is dead.
So I'm not sure if all of you get the reference or not, but it's from Star Trek. That's the situation we're in. You know, it's dead, right? You know, The server's crashing, productivity is down, we really couldn't move forward. So we began, the MLOps journey. And really, what drove this is our admin systems are, they're cloud-based now, our Salesforce, Accenture, et cetera. We need to integrate with them. We needed faster deployments, faster deployment and more efficiently. Having a single server type environment and not able to scale was really slowing us down. We wanted to deploy. We couldn't because we're using our server as a development platform versus deployment. And ensuring that data becomes available on the cloud. We're legacy-based company. A lot of our data is legacy storage. So how do we pivot off of those platforms and into the cloud? And integration. Like I mentioned, Salesforce, things like that. Those are very difficult to work with, and you really need a clean way to integrate. So where does MLOps fit into the life cycle? And really, it's every phase. Right at the beginning, proof of value. The ML engineers are kind of a consultant. They're looking at the data scientists. Are data scientists looking at what kind of data are they using? Is it a spreadsheet from Jim? How do you productionize a spreadsheet? Or PowerPoint. I even saw a data scientist once use data off of a PowerPoint. How is an ML engineer ever supposed to use that in a productionized model, right? So if we see them doing that in the proof of value phase, we can quickly, stop that. We don't want them going to their business partner with an idea and saying, we can get this for you. Let me get it over to Paul's team. He'll work on that. But we can actually do great things at the beginning. We can also help with choosing the right framework. Which framework should be leveraged? How will this work? How will it integrate? What kind of system processing capabilities do they need? When we move into analytical build, that's where the ML engineer really helps with the training data. We help to build the training data set for the data scientists. While they're focusing, on building the model, building the framework, we're building that data for them. And I have another slide that kind of highlights that iterative phase, and go into that. Deployment planning, this is where we're starting to engage with technology. We're giving them the final requirements. We're helping with not just the actual inputs into the model, but helping with the features and validation. Big piece here. The actual build itself, getting that model up onto a platform, integrating it, code hardening. This is where data scientists might have done some work on the features, and you really have to clean that up. The simple things like adding logging is not there. Technology, they really help a lot with those integration, those touch points. Integration also with other systems. And then obviously our monitoring, how do we get our ground truth, accuracy, drift, and you could be, for the most part, your models are going to work great, right? I don't really worry from a coding perspective, but kind of worried about when the models aren't working and it does something bad, but inadvertently, it's those are the calls that we don't want to get. So the issue resolution and how do we stay ahead of that? This slide here kind of highlights our work on the training data set. So on the right, it's really where we're partnering with our data scientists. And they have a list of requirements. We're helping going to really productionizable sources, but it's this iterative approach, right? So there might be, let's say, 800 variables that they're looking at, and that 800 will whittle down to maybe 30 at the end, 30 that are truly predictive and go into the model. But we would never want to go to a tech team with that work. If you went to your data folks in the tech world, they like nice requirements, and they like to work on things that have a starting and ending. This here, it's kind of going back and forth. A lot of exploratory data analysis, looking at the variables. Do they work? Do they work in the framework that the data scientist chose? The ML engineer will go really help to build that, and then once we get it to a point is where we get real requirements to our technology teams. But you can see in that proof of value, again, we're being consulted. We can help choose, we're not choosing an Excel sheet or a PowerPoint as our truth data or source data. And then when we do get into the analytical build, we're actually truly going to enterprise data sources. On the other side, now that our training data is done, the model's trained up, we want to move into technology teams. And working with technology starts with deployment planning. We give them a good set of requirements. If a model is identified as batch, it'll go to like our ETL teams, our enterprise ETL teams. If it's a API-driven model, we have to kind of find out how is that model, how is that API going to get the data, and who's going to send it, and that's various tech teams within the org. Again, from the build, we deploy this, and we are using Domino for most of our deployments, and we'll deploy that model. Again, we do a code hardening, integration, end-to-end testing. That's another key item that my team does. We really spend a lot of time ensuring that the model will run, and it'll run with no problems, right? Testing, and not just testing with like good data, but like all your corner cases, your bad data, no data. We actually developed, there's a site out there, I think some of you might be familiar with, Makaru. It generates data for all types of different data types. We actually developed something internally so that we could use our data, that's specific to New York Life, and generates specific test data for us, just because we really want to ensure that that we cover that. Our technology teams, like, they really help with that. Again, that back to integration, it's so key. And then monitoring. From the technology perspective, the data problems, right? Everything wants to fail. As 20 years experience, technology gravitates towards failure. It will fail at some point. So you could have a table that somebody has truncated. They've changed the data type. Even if you do all your due diligence and you think you've got it covered, it'll happen. The actual infrastructure itself, it's great. Everything runs great, but it's still gonna break. So we want to catch that. And then broken code. Again, my fear of that is mitigated by the measures we put in place, but it still happens. Our future state, stronger engagement with our partners. That's we found that if we don't have a really engaged business partner, it's much difficult to deal with technology. Like, we can sidestep our business partner or go through the side door with technology, but it's much easier to have them involved. Rapid innovation, like everybody wants. This MLOps world has really evolved fast, and you guys will see in the next 2 days how quickly things are changing. So we really have to stay ahead of that, and our development lifecycle allows for that innovation, that funnel, where we can, the data scientists, ML engineers, there's room to spend that time. Again, clearly identified stakeholders. Integrating with cloud technologies is not just like, if you're on AWS, your business partners may have a tool that lives in another cloud, and you have to learn that. Faster development. Deployment, how do we get 20 models doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot to us. How do we get to that 20 models, in a quarter, right? Or how do we start getting to a point where we might, deploy a model a week? I don't know that'll happen for us soon, but I'm sure for some of you it does, and that's reality. But you have to have the framework to support it. And if you don't have that, it just won't work. And more importantly, at the end of the day, your business partners have to be happy and really engaged and happy to have worked with you. And really, it's a continuum. It's important for us to recognize the models we build and deploy are just the beginning. The end of the project release is the start of the model's life. And the process begins again, right? So it's just gonna, keep the journey continues. And we got this from another website. It's actually, you probably can't read it, but it's posted on the bottom. But we kind of put this in at the end just to kind of show that, where we are, and it just really keeps on going.
Yeah, I recommend this website for anybody who's working with MLOps. You can't read it. It says MLOps mlops.org. It's a great website to refer to. I think it's mlops.org.
Yeah, it's mlops.org.
Yeah, it's contributed. A lot of people contribute to the website. It's kind of like just open website with a lot of information about MLOps. So it's been really helpful for us to use the content from that site to help our tech partners and our business partners understand what it is that we do. So, I don't get any credit for that or anything, but it's like a cheat code for us. So I guess we're ready for questions if anybody has any. Sure. There's a mic, actually. Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Hi. I was wondering if you could tell us more about the stage of trying to get the stakeholder to change their approach. It's tough. I don't know if there's more to say about it than it's just really tough, but maybe there's like an anecdote about it going really well, or like it looked like it was going to go bad, but then you like turned it around. I don't know.
Yeah, it takes a lot of patience. One of the things we've learned is that you get really excited about identifying this problem and then getting to data and like, let's build a model. And so I sometimes think about it like you want to paint a room in your house. You get so excited, you go out and you pick out a color. But you don't think about taping out, sanding, taking all the wall plates off. And it's that front end work that if you take the patience to do it and you explain to your business partner that we need to patiently walk through this planning phase, we'll be better off for it. And it's just slowing down. And I think they say slowing down to speed up, right? We have to slow down to speed it up. And that's what we've learned is you got to slow it down to speed it up. Tell them the whole truth and nothing but the truth too, because you don't want to build them something that they can't own, they need to understand total cost of ownership.
Thank you. What, can you say the name of the website one more time?
Yeah, mlops.org. Yeah, it's like an educational website.
Thank you. I hope I can toss the Star Trek reference back at you and say I feel like I live in a mirror universe. So much of what you said was familiar. We started 5 years ago, started at 5, up to 50. The path is completely the same. The difference that I feel is I feel like generally you've experienced success where we're at a place right now where I'm not sure that I would say that. And I wonder what the role of executive leadership is, what type of support you have or haven't had, and how that has enabled the transition that you've seen over the past 5 years.
Yeah, like leadership is key, right? Like, our chief analytics officer believed in us, I believe, to do this. It wasn't easy though, right? Like we had to, like all this work got done by us pursuing it. It's not like we had a willing and able partner in technology to stand up our environments. Our team had to do it. They were certainly a key player, but they kind of did it off the side of their desk, right? But
To echo that, leadership is key. I mean, they're giving us such a runway. Our runway is massive. I mean, think about, you saw that trajectory 3 years before we really put anything, even an insights model out. They're incredibly patient. And the funding, it's not inexpensive to stand this team up. We've spent in the high tens of millions of dollars to do this. But they understand that investment will pay off ultimately. But the runway is great. Lots of research before deployment. And so I can't say enough about there being a clear understanding that there's a big investment. Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, is it on? Yeah. So in the integration points that you mentioned in your slide, there were like 14 different teams involved, but the one team I didn't see, or actually maybe multiple teams, were information security and governance. So can you talk about that?
Sure.
Because
So
it's
yeah.
a conflict between the data science who says like they want the whole data, and the ISO coming in and saying, well, you can't have the whole data because of such and such and such.
Yeah. So security is definitely there. It's not hidden by any means. It's really part of our data governance aspect. So like when we have like a batch model that's going into the cloud, let's say the data source in the cloud, we cannot have any type of PI, PHI in the clear. It all has to be clearly tokenized or encrypted. And our security teams have that structure out there. So it's not like we can, that's why they're key. Like our technology teams are key to deployment. Their guardrails are up, right? So if we try to do that, and they have the scan tools in place to detect it. Same with our real-time APIs. But yeah, security is definitely underlying all of this.
It would have been hard for me to put more little men on that slide too. It's a lot of little men to put on there, but yeah, they were in there under the enterprise.
So you mentioned you've gone from 5 to 65. I'm at 5 right now. In 2020, you chose Domino. How many people did you have at that point, and what were some of the factors that made you choose Domino versus something else, or did you consider something else?
We did a really exhaustive POC. We kind of got it down to like three top vendors, and Domino kind of won the partnership. Willing to work with us. They were really great during our POC. I don't know exactly how many people we had.
We probably had about 22.
22. Our key data science leads that were part of the POC. Really favorable with the Domino experience during that POC. Not that the other ones, like in this marketplace, everything is super close. Like it's really hard to, it's really hard to make a decision one way or the other. But I think the key for us was that willing to work with us, work with our environment. We have a very complicated hybrid environment that involves cloud and like I said, this legacy environment. We have a Hadoop cluster still, so these things were key to making that decision.
You've mentioned a couple times about engineers like things, start to finish and test-driven development and things like that, and that's sort of one of the biggest differences and gaps between the codes between engineers and data scientists. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how you mentioned synthetic data as well, and is that something that you use to help get data scientists more towards test-driven development? I just wanted you to expand on those ideas a little bit more if you could.
Sure. Yeah. So what we found is we weren't really doing an exhaustive test. We weren't using enough test cases, or the data scientists had clean cases, right? Very few corner cases, bad data. So from an ML engineering perspective, we wanted to introduce the model's going live and nobody's ever tested for what happens if the payload's all null or something like that, or stuff that from software engineering is very well defined and goes through a very exhaustive approach. So, but in our shop we hadn't, ML engineers knew what to do, but data scientists really didn't. So that's where those two teams combined forces to really get together and say this is what we're going to do. But from a data science perspective, they ran it once, it worked. It's okay, let's go, move on to the next thing. So, but that's why we put that rigor in place.
Hi, my name is Taka. I represent the Government Accountability Office. One question for your team. Do you have to cross-train your data scientists to be more, for example, cybersecurity conversants around not hard-coding, credentials, et cetera, but also there's an increasing demand for data scientists to start behaving like ethicists and compliance for a variety of sort of that kind of societal impact around ML development. How have you tackled that kind of issues?
Yeah, it's evolving, right? So we found not every data scientist wants to follow best practices or or put that real rigor of engineering into their code. So that's where us helping them with the framework, helping them choose that, giving them modular type code or modular plugins that they can grab really helps. But
yeah, also giving them the support. We started out with that idea, full stack data scientists. They're going to do everything. They're going to know everything. It didn't work for us. We had that idea in the beginning, but I think what we did was we said, look, we're going to engage governance early on so that we give you the support you need to understand the risks with the data that you're looking at, or giving them a strong ML ops team. Some people want to be all things, but not many is what we found. Yeah, most of our data scientists don't want to be a full stack.
Yeah, full stack data scientist is like it's like a unicorn, right? It's hard to find. Right? So, I'll hire one if I could find one, but.
Sorry, I know we're getting close to lunch, but I have another question. 5 to 55. is great, a great accomplishment. But I'm really interested in the 20 models in 24 months. Scaling models to accomplish more models into production, maintaining those, and reducing the friction that comes in the model development lifecycle. How were you able to do that? And going forward to your next 20 models, how do you want to do that faster? What are those ways that you reduce the friction points?
Well, I think the first thing is, those 20 models were painful, right? We don't want to go back to that pain. The first thing is this Center for Enablement with technology. 14 touch points, I can't manage that. So what we've done is, we've really engaged with technology to make sure they're going to partner with us. And the other piece is the business partner. The business partner needs to be pulling everybody through this. They need to pull their tech team in. So it's not technical how we're going to solve this problem. It's collaboration. It's about making those agreements so that we can build that velocity in. That's the key. There's some technical improvements we'll have in general, but it's really putting the system in place to have that velocity.
Well,
So what are the bottlenecks in those 14 points? Is that change management? Is that the overall governance of the process?
Yeah, it's the bottlenecks are just, it's the amount of time it takes to get from, there's 14 touch points take place over sometimes 18 months. Nobody expects us coming into a PI at that point. Somebody needs to manage us through that, right? Our bottlenecks are that we have to be on that backlog already. So we can chat afterwards, but feel free to link in or reach out to us if you guys want to talk more.